your health and for as long as possible, to keep well and potentially, slow or even if possible, reverse aging. So the question is to ask yourself at the end of this presentation, are you taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back for some of the things you're doing? But before we get into the subject matter, I want to share a short video just to give you guys some perspective on this whole topic.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future.
It's a real eye-opener. I think it gets people thinking. It certainly does myself. And perhaps you can relate to it. You know someone in your family who's been in that situation. But if we talk about aging and toxins, have you ever wondered why one person can seem markedly older than another person who is within the same age bracket? The answer may be that one person who appears to have aged faster has been exposed to more environmental toxins. New research concludes that avoiding these toxins may actually be a secret to slowing down the aging process. Gerontogens. What are gerontogens? This is a new term, and it's actually from, gerontologists. So a gerontologist studies aging and looks after people in their older age. So this new word they've come up with, gerontogens, are environmental agents that can accelerate aging in some animals, including humans. Gerontogens are typically toxic chemical agents, such as those found in cigarette smoke, as well as other things can act as gerontogens, including ultraviolet radiation, arsenic, and other chemicals. Gerontogens work in 2 ways. They can shorten telomeres. So telomeres protect the caps of your chromosomes. They make up your DNA. And so they can shorten telomeres, which accelerates cell destruction. Telomeres shorten with aging, and this process can be accelerated by increased oxidative stress and episodes of inflammation. Evidence links telomere length to environmental chemical exposure, and short telomeres have been frequently associated with chronic disease. When your telomeres get very short as you age and they're too short, then the cell goes into senescence and the cell dies. Gerontogens can also accelerate the rate of cellular senescence, and senescence is a process by which the cells permanently stop dividing. And senescent cells accumulate as we get older, till eventually we have so many that we actually stop living. So let's clarify what gerontogens are. They also can be considered as genotoxins, and another easier way to describe them, I guess, would be chemicals or toxins or other environmental agents that can actually accelerate aging. So another environmental agent that accelerates aging, probably I'm sure all of you are aware that UV light accelerates aging. Particularly excessive exposure can speed that whole process up. It's actually called photoaging. And you think, okay, well, it's only changing the appearance of my skin. But actually, no, it's doing a lot more than that. It's actually damaging DNA. And so you can see the double helix there representing DNA, the picture on the screen. So when the UV photon comes in, it actually knocks out some of that DNA and causes DNA damage. And of course, if we have enough DNA damage, our body goes into a disease state, and then we can develop things like cancer. But these pictures are very interesting because it just gives you a bit of perspective of what sun UV damage can really do. So this is a picture on the left of somebody's back of their neck, and the furrows are arranged in a typical rhomboidal pattern. And then the figure on the right is a gentleman with deep furrowing, plaques, extra deep lines and cysts. So excessive sun exposure, you definitely want to avoid that. So how are we exposed to toxic chemicals? So toxins are absorbed into your body. Your skin is actually the largest organ in the body. It is responsible for detoxification and absorption. Scientific studies carried out by the American Journal of Public Health found that the skin actually absorbs up to 64% of what is applied topically. However, other studies actually found the face, underarms, and genital areas to be even more permeable, with up to 100% absorption. So the question is, what are you applying to your face and under your arms? Toxin exposure. So here's a little study of the 2,983 chemicals used in cosmetics and personal care products. They found that 884 of the ingredients were actually toxic. These include sodium lauryl sulfate and propylene glycol. That's 2 of the many ingredients. Of these, 314 can cause biological mutation, 218 can cause reproductive complications, 778 can cause acute toxicity, 146 can cause tumours, and 376 can cause skin and eye irritations. So Senator Edward, back in 1997, and this is quite a long time ago considering we're in 2019, he actually made the comment back then that this is an industry that is under-regulated and its products are too often hazardous. So you'd think they would have done something about it since it was those sort of things were being recognised back then. This study here done on environmental toxins found in the fetus and the mother, they found that 80% of the chemicals detected in the mother's blood samples were also detected in the baby's blood samples. Toxins assessed including PCBs, OCPS, there's a number of others, mercury and lead. Concentrations of the chemicals found in at least 20 of the maternal and cord pairs were significantly correlated 77% of the time. So basically what this is saying, toxins in the mother go straight into the baby. So many of you may think, well, what damage can the toxins do in addition to accelerating aging? Many of you may have heard of peripheral neuropathy. So this is a condition that people can suffer. It's often associated with diabetes or pre-diabetic, but there are a few other causes. And that's where somebody's hands and fingers start to go numb, tingling. They can even have pain in them. This is the foundation for peripheral neuropathy. And one of the other causes of peripheral neuropathy is actually toxic buildup. So toxins, poisons, and chemicals can build up in the body and actually cause this condition as well. There's a whole list of toxins listed on their site that can actually build up and cause this damage. Another product that's really commonly used by people is toothpaste, obviously. Most people use toothpaste. And toothpaste, if you think about it, you know, you're using it in your mouth. Absorption, they use the mouth. They can give you drugs now under the tongue to get really quick absorption. And absorption of drugs from the oral cavity in the mucosal tissues in the mouth is typically a very fast event. And that's from PubMed. You can see these ingredients actually commonly found in toothpaste. So I'm not sure what toothpaste you're using at the moment, but when you get home, or if you're out and you're listening to this, or if you're already at home, go into your bathroom and have a look at the ingredients on your toothpaste and see if you can see some of these listed. So we've got things like F, D, and C colour pigments. Those are known carcinogens. We've got propylene glycol. So we've already touched on this a little bit. Paraben, sodium lauryl sulfate, and a number of other chemicals. All of these can damage in one way or the other, may cause damage to the nervous system. They can be implicated with cancer, impact hormonal balance, and these are known to be gerontogens, although perhaps not officially listed as. Another toxin in toothpaste is sodium fluoride. So we all know most toothpaste contains fluoride. Did you know that sodium fluoride is actually a cleaning agent, and it's used actually as stomach poison for plant-feeding insects? In lower doses, water fluoridation has adverse effects, and it can cause dental fluorosis. That actually can alter the appearance of children's teeth during tooth development. And chronic fluoride ingestion, 1 part per million of fluoride in drinking water, can actually cause mottling of the teeth, fluorosis. And an exposure of 1.7 will produce it in 30 to 50% of patients. That reference is from Wikipedia. The fact is that large consumptions of sodium fluoride is toxic. It's a completely toxic substance, and it can cause bone deformities and weaken bones. But they say don't worry about it because it's only in a small amount. Okay, it's in such a small amount, but it can cause fluorosis. And if you have a look at this picture here, you can see mild fluorosis. So perhaps when we're finished, you might want to have a look at your teeth in the mirror and see if they've got white spots on them, like this picture here. That's actually caused by the fluoride, the sodium fluoride that's been added to the water. And that means you've got too much of it. So the question is, if it's doing this to your teeth, what is it doing to your bones? They found in a study that 41% of American adolescents has fluorosis. You see often warnings on the label. Be very careful about how much toothpaste you use, a pea-size amount, that's all. The reason is because it's actually a poison when swallowed. And if you swallow it in large amounts, it can cause serious harm. So why are we using these ingredients? Toxins actually that are applied to the skin can be absorbed in 26 seconds. That's all it takes. And so when you're applying all those different personal care and bathroom products, makeup, skincare, deodorant, 26 seconds, they're straight into the bloodstream. They say 5 pounds of chemicals are absorbed through the skin each year. So how many chemicals are actually banned for use in cosmetics and personal care products? Well, in Europe, they've actually banned 1,328 chemicals. In the USA, they've banned 11. And in Australia, guess what? They've banned 0. Why is that, you might ask? Because regulation of chemicals in Australia is fairly relaxed. Cosmetic regulations in Australia do not require a license to start manufacturing cosmetics, and there is no GMP mandatory accreditation required at all. You're not required to submit any products to the government agency for safety assessments or approval before releasing them onto the market. And there is no checklist covering all the elements you're required to include in the cosmetic product label. So in reality, we're not really protected. It's up to you to check. How did it get to be this way, you might ask? Chemicals were actually grandfathered into personal care products. This goes back probably to the 1940s. Chemicals are considered innocent until proven guilty. The skin was always thought to be a barrier, not a carrier, that it protects us. But we now know that it actually is a carrier. The chemicals you put on your skin go straight into your body. They didn't know that back then. And as a result, people have been exposed to toxic chemicals. This has been left under-regulated by the EPA for decades with devastating effects. If we just look at a common shampoo bottle and turn over and have a look at the label, there's a number of ingredients I'm just going to touch on too, the propylene glycol and sodium lauryl sulfate. So propylene glycol is actually used in industry, in industrial antifreeze and brake fluid. And sodium lauryl sulfate, that ingredient is actually used in engine degreaser. It's really good at breaking down grease and protein and just stripping it. And this actually makes me think of a story. Let me just go to the next slide. Tom Mauer, who you all know, or most of you know who are on the call, and if you don't, I'll talk a little bit about him. He actually got involved in industry. He was a chemist producing chemicals for industry. And one day he was at work and he, was suiting up. They have to put protective clothing on, gloves, goggles, everything to make sure they don't get any of these chemicals spilt on themselves. And when he went home that night, he decided to have a look at his shampoo bottle. And he noticed his shampoo bottle had the same chemicals he was using in the factory. And he thought to himself, that can't be. What's the difference? He did some research and he found that the chemicals used in shampoo and the chemicals used in the industry where he has to wear protective clothing are exactly the same. The only difference is that the chemicals in personal care products are tested for bacteria contamination and the other is not. Well, he was really horrified at this and he started throwing out all these personal care products. He then decided he was going to start making his own shampoo. So he actually produced a shampoo and conditioner at home in his house, and they were the first 2 products that started him in the industry. He then started his own company called Images in 1989, and he produced safe products with no harmful ingredients. Back then, Tom was touting the dangers of these ingredients. Because who knew back then? Not many people. Not many people talked about it, but he did. He even worked with Samuel Epstein, the Cancer Prevention Coalition president or chairman, and actually achieved an award for having the safest personal care products in the world in the 1990s. A book was also published called Dangerous Beauty. Today, Tom Maurer is the chief scientist along with his son, Tom Maurer Jr. of Sizzle International. They founded it in 2006, and Sizzle was opened in Australia in 2017. Today, the Maurer mission continues, and he continues to make safe products that are free from all of these harmful ingredients because he knows the damage they can do. So you might still be questioning, oh, it can't be that bad, really. Recently, you may have seen in the news that Johnson & Johnson has come under fire and has had a massive cancer lawsuit against them. Earlier this year, St. Louis jury awarded more than $47 billion, $6 billion in total damages, to 22 women and their family after they claimed asbestos in Johnson & Johnson talcum powder contributed to their ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay at least $25 million to a woman who said she contracted asbestos-related cancer through decades of daily use of Johnson & Johnson baby powder and other talc powder products, one called Shower to Shower. Johnson & Johnson now faces today more than 14,000 claims that its powders cause ovarian cancer and another type of rare cancer linked to asbestos exposure. The company denies its products were ever contained the carcinogen and still argues that talc does not cause life-threatening illnesses. Well, I'm sure we could ask this lady, Miss Robinson, I believe her name is. She would completely disagree. She was actually awarded money for damage to, obviously, for contracting cancer. So you might ask, well, how is talcum powder similar to asbestos? We all know that asbestos is very dangerous. Talcum powder is similar to asbestos both in its biological form and its effect on the body. Both talc and asbestos are fibrous in their natural forms. When introduced to the body, both minerals also have been shown to cause inflammation and suppression of the immune system. In the case of asbestos, these factors are known to play a role in the development of ovarian cancer. The fact that talc can cause a similar reaction in the human body supports the idea that talc itself, not just talc contaminated with asbestos, can cause ovarian cancer. Because they're saying that talcum powder is contaminated, but actually the science shows that even if it's not contaminated, it can still cause cancer. Let's look at environmental toxins. Some of you may have heard about Monsanto's Roundup. Glyphosate, genotoxins in glyphosate. In May 2019, Monsanto, the company, was ordered to cough up $2.96 billion in damages. During proceedings, jurors discovered that Monsanto had engaged in reprehensible conduct by burying industry studies which found its products were harmful and instead fabricated new papers promoting safety. It is believed to be the largest jury award in the US so far this year and the 8th largest payout in a product default case ever. An elderly couple in the US who claimed long-term exposure to glyphosate ingredient in its weed killer Roundup caused them to both contract non-Hodgkin's lymphoma within 4 years of each other. It follows several recent legal battles that Monsanto has faced concerning Roundup, with an estimated 13,000 new cases launched at US state level and federal level. And what is Bayer's solution to it? So Bayer owns Monsanto, the brand. So their solution to the problem, they're going to phase out the Monsanto brand name as part of a wider campaign to win back consumer trust. Let's remember that Monsanto was also one of a handful of companies that produced Agent Orange with its main poison dioxin. Agent Orange was thought to be safe back then, but I'm sure Monsanto knew that it was not, or Bayer. Agent Orange is a herbicide and defoliant chemical, one of the tactical use rainbow herbicides. It's widely known for its use by the US military as part of herbicide warfare. Operation Ranch Hand during the Vietnam War from 61 to 71. In addition to its damaging environmental effects, traces of dioxin found in the mixture have caused major health problems for many individuals who are exposed. The chemical is capable of damaging genes, resulting in deformities among offspring and exposed victims. And clearly we can say that it's accelerating aging and speeding someone to their death. The US government has actually documented cases of leukemia, Hodgkin's lymphoma. There we have that same type of cancer again from, exposure to pesticides and herbicides, and various other types of cancer in exposed veterans. Agent Orange has also caused enormous environmental damage in Vietnam. Generations later, more than 3 million Vietnamese are believed to still be affected by the 20 million gallons of Agent Orange sprayed by the US military over Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos in the 10 years up until 1971. Back then, even the US military believed it to be very safe. You can see video footage of them even bathing in it, showering in it. It's going all over their skin. They were told it did not harm humans. It only affected plants. How wrong were they? Here's some great news. April this year, glyphosate is now banned in Vietnam. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development yesterday banned the use of glyphosate, an active ingredient in many weed controls. The Ministry Plant Protection Department said the ban was made in line with the Vietnamese laws and international regulations, as well as the country's socio-economic conditions. So, proof that senescent cells are increased with toxic chemicals. A team of scientists has developed a strain of mice that produce a protein that glows whenever they make P16. This protein directly correlates to the number of senescent cells. They found when we get older, we have lots of senescent cells, and the mice glow like crazy. When you expose them to chemicals, they'll glow at a younger age than you expect. Here's a picture of the actual mice they used in the experiment. So you can see the picture on the left versus the picture on the right, and I'll go through that in a second. So senescent cells are a major cause of aging. So in aging, the body experiences a phenomenon called senescence, a process whereby healthy cells are damaged, they lose their ability to divide. Over time, these harmed cells build up in the body, they release hormones that cause inflammation. As people age, these cells accumulate and contribute to aging, as well as many diseases associated with it. You can see the picture on the left with the mice. I guess it's one mouse as it's aged from when it was young to its end of life. And you can see the blue and green spots, I guess, lit up on them. And you can see by the time it gets to death, it's got a lot of senescent cells. The picture on the right shows a mouse that's been exposed to ambient air, normal air, versus one that's been exposed to cigarette smoke. And so they can clearly see that the exposure to cigarette smoke increases senescent cells and cellular death to accelerate aging. So toxins and aging. The idea that environmental factors can accelerate aging has been around for a while. Many of you on the call may know about this, but research has definitely been lagging behind. It is not yet considered mainstream. I mean, you don't go to your doctors and when he says to you, when you get there, he doesn't say to you, oh, what chemicals, what personal care products have you been using in your bathroom today? You know, what are you using in and around the home? It's just not talked about because it hasn't been accepted by the scientific community and hasn't become mainstream by everyone. Scientists have only become more recently interested in these substances in recent years after learning that many types of chemotherapy and some anti-HIV drugs can speed the onset of age-related traits like frailty and mental decline. Scientists actually estimate chemotherapy makes you 15 years older. And when somebody undergoes chemo, if they're young, they give them a certain type of chemotherapy. And if they're old, they have to give them a much weaker chemotherapy because the body cannot stand it. So you might think, oh, my genes will save me. Well, they won't save you. Twin studies have suggested that only around 25% is influenced by your genes. Other factors including accidents, injuries, and exposures to substances and chemicals accelerate aging. May have heard of Ancestry.com. They collect a lot of DNA because people want to find out where their heritage comes from. They've actually stated that it may even be as low as 7% of your genes. So why are some 75-year-olds sprightly while others can barely get around? Part of this explanation, says researchers from the Cell Press journal, Trends in Molecular Medicine on May 28th, is the differences from one person to the next in the exposure to harmful substances in the environment. Chemicals such as benzene, cigarette smoke, and even stress accelerate aging. Remember, the more cells get stressed when you expose them to harmful chemicals. So scientists are now recognizing the effects of toxins and aging. While the birth date on your driver's license can tell you your chronological age, that might mean very little in terms of biological age of your body and cells. Researchers now say that we need is a better understanding of chemicals involved in aging and biomarkers to measure their effects. A quote from a scientist recently said, "We believe just as an understanding as carcinogens has informed cancer biology, so too will an understanding of gerontogens benefit the study of aging. By identifying and avoiding gerontogens, we will be able to influence aging and life expectancy at a public level." So my question to you is, are you going to wait till it's confirmed officially and everybody's in agreement? Or perhaps we could use some common sense and make up our own mind. So how can you get tested to see if you've got toxic overload? One test that's available locally, or actually within Australia, is a nutrient and toxic element testing. That's where they take a sample of your hair and they actually measure the mineral and toxic elements in your hair. Now, it doesn't measure all of them, but it'll give you a good snapshot. This is available through interclinical laboratories. You can self-refer yourself as well. Another test that's available is telomere testing. Telomere testing will actually become common practice in the future. This is a test that allows us to measure how long are our telomeres and are they as long as they should be given our age. They say that it'll become a common practice in the future, like cholesterol and blood testing and blood pressure testing. If you are interested in getting this sort of test, it's actually not available in Australia yet, but we do have some information maybe that you might be able to still get it. So if you are interested, you feel free to reach out to me. So what can we do to protect ourselves today? Okay, so step one, we want to remove products that contain potentially harmful toxins in and around the home. And step two, we want to look at ways to slow the effects of aging. So what sort of products could you use that are safe in your home? Well, I talked about Tom Mauer earlier in this presentation, and he started a company called Sizzle International, and he has been creating toxin-free products since 1989. He has a great range of products in the Sizzle range, including toothpaste, mouthwash, shaving gel, shampoo and conditioner, body wash, and facial creams are all there. And what else can we do to slow aging to increase our health span? And when we talk about lifespan, really the main thing we want to focus on is our health span. Like the video that we saw at the beginning of this presentation, they say the average Canadian, and you really could say the average person, spends at least 10 years at the end of their life in sickness. So let's do everything that we can to increase our health span. So most certainly we want to be doing things such as exercise. We want to have a good diet, sufficient protein, lots of fruit and vegetables, and drink plenty of water. So what else can we do? There are supplements that can support your body and help to slow the aging process down, potentially slow the aging process down, I have to say, I guess. So we want to protect our telomeres. So Sizzle have a great product called TSX that helps to protect telomeres, and it supports the body to protect them, and it supports the body to help keep them long and healthy. Another great product they have is the Age Pill, which many of you may have heard about. So the Age Pill is a fantastic product that supports the body's stem cells, and it also helps to remove waste inside and outside cells. So as we age, we get cellular waste build up inside and outside every cell in our body, and the Age Pill supports the body to remove those toxins. Another thing to consider is antioxidants to protect your DNA. Sizzle has a great new product called H2, Hydrogen Water Stick. And hydrogen is a very powerful antioxidant. And in fact, it's noted as the most powerful antioxidant in the world. It's the smallest molecule. It can pass through every cell. And it can neutralize free radicals. And it can neutralize the hydroxyl free radical, which is one of the most harmful free radicals that we're exposed to. And this is actually created by our own body when we produce energy. I saw Tom Mauer actually did a post today and said that hydrogen, there was a study showing that hydrogen, and we can't make claims on our products, but we can talk about the ingredients. But he talked about that hydrogen can help neutralize the effects of glyphosate, so Roundup. And we're all exposed to it. Even if you're eating organic, that's great, but when you're walking down the street or you're in a playground or you touch anything else, so many things have been sprayed with it. It's just everywhere. So hopefully that gives you some really great information tonight to go away and think about how you could improve your health. And in closing, I just wanted to say no to toxins.